Close your eyes for a second. Imagine you are walking through New Orleans on a hot, wet night in the 1820s. The street is narrow. The stones under your boots are slick from river mist. Somewhere nearby, a horse cart creaks over the road. From the Mississippi, you can smell mud, tobacco, sweat, and money. And then you hear it. Not music, not laughter. Coins. A small sound, but sharp enough to cut through the night. Behind one heavy wooden door, men are whispering. Glasses are touching tables. Cards are sliding across green felt. Someone is laughing too loudly. Someone else has gone completely silent. You push the door open, and for a moment the outside world disappears. Inside, candles burn from chandeliers. Smoke hangs under the ceiling like a second roof. Men in fine coats lean over tables, watching a roulette wheel spin as if their entire future is trapped inside it. One man has just won enough money to buy a house. Another has just lost enough to never go home the same. And standing behind all of it is a man who understood America better than most politicians of his time. His name was John Davis. And what he built in New Orleans was not just a gambling room. It was America's first true casino. Before Las Vegas, before Atlantic City, before neon lights, giant hotels, slot machines, and billion-dollar resorts, there was this. A candlelit room in New Orleans where America learned how much it loved risk. To understand why this happened here, you have to understand New Orleans. In the early 1800s, New Orleans was unlike any other city in the United States. It was American, but not fully American. It was French. It was Spanish. It was Caribbean. It was African. It was Catholic, musical, dangerous, elegant, and wild all at once. It sat at the mouth of the Mississippi River, one of the most important waterways in North America. Cotton came through here. Tobacco came through here. Sugar came through here. Whiskey came through here. And with all of that came money. Fast money, dirty money, desperate money. The kind of money that does not like to sit still. Every day, ships arrived. Riverboats tied up at the docks. Merchants stepped onto the streets with pockets full of coin. Plantation owners came looking for pleasure. Sailors came looking for trouble. Travelers came looking for a night they would never tell their families about. New Orleans gave all of them what they wanted. Food, music, women, drink, and gambling. Long before gambling became an industry, it was already part of the city's blood. People gambled in taverns. They gambled in billiard halls. They gambled in back rooms. They gambled on riverboats, in private houses, in public squares, and sometimes in places where nobody was supposed to know anything was happening. Cards were everywhere. Dice were everywhere. Money was always moving from one hand to another. City officials tried to control it. Laws were passed. Bans were written. Warnings were given. But New Orleans was not the kind of city that listened easily. Every time someone tried to push gambling out, it slipped through another door. Because gambling was not just a habit here. It was entertainment. It was business. It was status. It was danger. It was hope. And for some men, it was the only way they could imagine becoming rich overnight. Then John Davis saw something bigger. He looked at the gambling rooms of New Orleans and realized they were missing one thing. Not cards, not dice, not money, style. Most gambling rooms were rough places, dark rooms, loud men, cheap tables, bad liquor. Men crowded shoulder to shoulder, sweating and cursing under weak candlelight. Davis understood that the rich did not just want to gamble. They wanted to feel important while doing it. They wanted luxury. They wanted elegance. They wanted to lose money in a room that made them feel like kings. So, around the 1820s, Davis opened what became known as the Crescent City House. And he did not build it like a cheap gambling den. He built it like a palace of temptation. Imagine walking in. The first thing you notice is the light. Not harsh, not bright, but golden. Candlelight reflecting off glass, silver, polished wood, and the faces of men pretending they are not nervous. The walls are decorated. The furniture feels European. The room smells of tobacco smoke, roasted meat, perfume, sweat, and expensive alcohol. There is food, not scraps. Real food. A proper meal. A buffet. Something generous enough to make a man feel welcome before the house takes his money. There is liquor flowing. There are roulette wheels, faro tables, card games, poker. Men talking in French, English, Spanish, and whatever language money speaks when it is about to disappear. And the place never sleeps. That may be the most insane part. 24 hours a day. In an age before electricity, before telephones, before modern hotels, before Las Vegas even existed as an idea, John Davis created a place where the night never had to end. You could walk in at sunset and still be there at sunrise. You could win at midnight and lose everything before breakfast. You could enter as a gentleman and leave as a ghost of yourself. This was the genius of the Crescent City House. It did not just offer gambling, it offered escape. Inside those walls, time became soft. Morality became negotiable. Risk became beautiful. A man could sit at a table and convince himself that one more hand would fix everything. One more spin, one more card, one more chance. And that feeling is dangerous because it feels almost holy. At the roulette table, you might see a wealthy planter standing still as stone. His coat is perfect. His boots are polished. His hands are calm. But his eyes are not. His eyes follow the wheel like a starving animal. Across the room, a riverboat captain leans over a faro table. He has spent weeks on the Mississippi, guiding cargo through fog, storms, and sandbars. In his pocket is months of profit. By morning, it may belong to another man. Near the bar, two businessmen speak in low voices. They are not just gambling. They are making deals. Cotton, land, ships, debt, politics. In New Orleans, the casino was not separate from power. It was part of it. And then there were the professionals, the men who smiled too easily, the men who never seemed drunk even when they drank, the men whose hands moved like they had been trained by the devil himself. Card sharpers. These were not common thieves. They were artists. They could mark cards, stack decks, signal partners, read faces, and steal from a man while making him feel respected. They dressed well. They spoke politely. They knew when to laugh. They knew when to stay silent. And they understood one of the darkest truths about gambling. Most men do not lose because they are forced to. They lose because they believe they are about to win. The card sharper became one of America's first great underworld characters. Before the cowboy gambler of the Wild West, before the riverboat cheat in a white suit, before the poker legend with cold eyes and steady hands, there were men in New Orleans learning the craft under candlelight. The Crescent City House helped create that world, a world where luck, skill, lies, charm, and money all sat at the same table. And then the idea spread. Because once America saw what gambling could become, there was no putting it back in the bottle. New Orleans filled with imitators. More gambling houses opened. Some were elegant, some were dangerous. Some were little more than traps with a card table and a bottle of whiskey. But they all fed the same hunger. Then the river carried that hunger north. The Mississippi became more than a river. It became a moving casino corridor. Riverboats carried cotton, Passengers, news, and gamblers from New Orleans to Natchez, Memphis, St. Louis, and beyond. On these boats, the same drama played out night after night. A man would board with money in his coat. He would meet a friendly stranger. The stranger would suggest a small game, nothing serious, just something to pass the time. By the next landing, the man might step off with empty pockets and a story he would never repeat honestly. From the riverboats, gambling moved west. Railroads came. Gold fever came. Boom towns came. And wherever men gathered with money, loneliness, danger, and ambition, gambling followed. The American frontier loved the gambler because the gambler represented something deeply American. The belief that your life could change in a single moment. One card, one bet, one risk. That idea did not start in Las Vegas. It did not start under neon lights. It started in rooms like the Crescent City House. Rooms where men looked at a table and saw not a game, but destiny. But there was always a darker side. For every man who walked out rich, more walked out ruined. Families lost fortunes. Businesses collapsed. Debts turned violent. Men who had entered laughing sometimes left with faces pale and empty. Some never recovered. And America began to panic over the thing it secretly loved. Preachers called gambling a sin. Politicians called it corruption. Newspapers warned about moral decay. Cities passed laws. Licenses were revoked. Gambling houses were shut down. But the problem was simple. The laws could close a door. They could not kill the desire behind it. When gambling was banned, it went underground. Back rooms, private clubs, riverboats, secret tables, hidden doors, quiet passwords. The game survived because it was attached to something older than law. Hope, greed, fear, ego, the hunger to turn a little into a lot, the belief that the next hand might change everything. And that is why the story of America's first casino matters. Because it was never just about gambling. It was about the American mind. The same country that told people to work hard also whispered that maybe, just maybe, you could win everything in a single night. The same country that praised discipline also built cities around risk. The same country that feared vice kept returning to it again and again, dressed in better clothes each time. John Davis may not have known it, but his candlelit casino in New Orleans was a preview of America's future. A future of riverboat gambling, a future of frontier poker rooms, a future of illegal clubs, political corruption, casino resorts, Atlantic City boardwalks, and finally Las Vegas, a city built almost entirely on the promise that chance can become architecture. And yet the Crescent City House itself is gone. No glowing sign remains. No famous monument stands there. No massive crowd gathers every night to remember the room where America's casino culture began. The building disappeared into the city's long memory, but New Orleans remembers things in strange ways. Walk through the French Quarter at night, and sometimes the past does not feel gone. It feels hidden. You hear music coming from open doors. You smell smoke, rain, food, and old wood. You see balconies leaning over narrow streets. You hear laughter from somewhere you cannot see. And for 1 second, it is easy to imagine that room again. The candles, the cards, the coins, the man at the table pretending he is calm, the dealer watching him without expression, the roulette wheel spinning slowly, beautifully, cruelly, and somewhere in that room, John Davis watching it all, understanding exactly what he had built. Not just a casino, a machine for turning desire into money. A theater where every man could pretend he was one lucky moment away from becoming someone else. That is what America's first casino really was. Not just a place to gamble, a mirror, And what it reflected was uncomfortable, because behind every card game, behind every spin of the wheel, behind every coin dropped onto the table, there was a question America has never stopped asking. What if this is the moment my life changes? That question built fortunes. It destroyed families. It filled riverboats. It shaped frontier towns. It helped create Las Vegas. And it began in some real way behind a heavy wooden door in New Orleans, where men gathered under candlelight and dealt cards into the dark. If this story pulled you into the past, subscribe, because history is full of forgotten rooms like this, where the modern world quietly began.